Take two, because why the heck not? Hi, I am the Suit&Tie Dip&ChewGuy, and welcome to this topic video. The video's topic is America's Best? Question mark. This is a topic that at first I was just trying to ignore, to tell you the truth. And then once I realized I was going to have to probably do a video on it or felt the need to, I basically have been putting off doing so because I knew it was something that I could start rambling on. And being that the first video of this turned out to be about 23 minutes, I was correct. So, Redman has changed its name to America's Best and removed the Indian head. The Ionic Indian head is no longer going to be on the packaging. And you're sitting there going, what? What's happened? And there is a reason why you may not be in the know about this. And that is because they did it on the 20th of January. Out of nowhere. With no hint or warning beforehand. And when they were asked, when will this change be taking place? They said, right now. The new packaging should start hitting shelves this next month, being the month we're in, February. So, why is this happening? Now, I do not know exactly why this is happening. There are a number of theories I can put forth. None of them, in my mind, are good, or like a good thing to happen, or a good thing to befall the community that uses smokeless tobacco and chew in general. So, the first link, I will be foregoing my normal linking of the Amazon page and whatnot. And the first link down below is an article about the name change. And in this article, they will put forth their reasoning for changing the name. That is, it is a Pinkerton executive, or it may be worded as a part of the Redman team. And the reason, well, they don't exactly say what the reason is. They don't. It's a good thing. That's the reason. But they don't exactly say why it is a good thing. What they do say, and they say it real early in the article. It's not a terribly long article, but is that they were not pressured. We need you to know that up front, we were not pressured at all. There was no pressure. So I would have loved to seen the press release of this. It probably played out if it was filmed like a hostage video. But look, in African countries, when there's a coup, the first sign that there's a coup or that a coup has in fact taken place is their nightly newscaster is replaced on whatever day of the week it is with a guy in camouflage fatigues wearing dress medals and epaulets. And the first thing he says is, don't panic, it was definitely not a coup. And in the same way, Redman would like you to know they were definitely not pressured. They go on to say in this article that, they had been in low-key engagements with Native Americans for a while now. And that helped them come along to this decision. And the proof that they've been in low-key negotiations, I guess it should be said, is, well, they have a guy quoted in the article that is supposedly some sort of leader in the Native American community. So they claim anyway. I did not background check him, but they claim it. And he is the proof of consensus from North American Native Indians. They supply you with a quote from one Indian. And that one Indian wants you to know that North American Indians are behind this move. And that's why you, the person that actually buys the product and uses it, should be happy about this. never mind the fact that, the branding is of a rather stoic, serious Indian in traditional tribal, probably war dress headwear. It's not like some, and as far as the words red man, in any community that other than mine, I would be referred to as a white man. And outside of maybe police reports and things where they reference them as African American males, anybody else, black men included, would refer to each other as black men. So where there's an issue with red man, I don't know. Now, the part about, so what could be the possible reasons? Okay. Well, the first reason, which is probably the most absurd, but in this day and age can't be completely ruled out, is that the overlords of Redman and Pinkerton, which are a Swedish match, which are headquartered in Sweden, which is the progressive lunatic capital of the world. That could be a reason in itself. They think that by doing this, and I'm not saying this is the likely scenario, but I at the same time, as the world descends into madness, I cannot definitively rule it out. They think that they can increase their market share by doing this. Because why not, right? We'll get the name off there. We'll do a little virtue signaling. Next thing you know, those metropolitan hipsters will be dubbing out their natural spirit cigarettes and chewing America's best. Because. Okay, so that's one thing. Maybe it's like a lost in translation. The Swedes haven't got the memo. I mean, they've only owned Pinkerton and Redman since 1985. 37 years, but it is Sweden and thus Swedish people, so maybe there's something lost in translation there. Number two, much more likely, they got leaned on. They were pressured. Now, who would do the pressuring? Okay, so in the last number of years, corporate America has, any corporate entity has done any number of goofy virtue signaling things. And usually people cannot, why are they doing that? And usually the corporation takes a beating for it. I mean, there is even a saying now, go woke, go broke. But yet they keep doing it. Why? Because they are not so much virtue signaling to the populace, they are virtue signaling to the entities that are applying the pressure. Well, who would those entities be? It could be any number, but as an example, underneath the article, there'll be a second link, okay, with another article, and that article will give you the gist of things. So there's a guy named Larry Fink. He is an financial management CEO of one of the biggest, I believe, asset financial management companies in the United States and possibly the world. His name's Larry Fink, and he's the CEO of BlackRock Financial. BlackRock Financial is managing the assets worth at somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 trillion. Larry thinks of himself somewhat as a champion of progressive causes, sort of an activist with a huge war chest to leverage on people that he feels is below him. Now, with 10 trillion, that's a lot of leverage. Okay, you can start leveraging people with $10 trillion in assets. So, I mean, let's say some of the goofy stuff that Coca-Cola's done. Well, who the heck would be big enough to leverage Coca-Cola. BlackRock Financial would be. Okay? Pepsi-Cola. Same thing. All right? So the agitating, irritating part about BlackRock is, and Larry, that's not his $10 trillion. That's not his. It's not BlackRock's either. They're managing it. They have it amassed, and they have access to it, I suppose. But it's not actually their money. What they do is they manage assets and stock trades and this, that, and the next for retirees and people approaching retirement and forward-thinking long-term people that are not even close to retirement but are planning ahead. They are everyday Americans' savings that they're managing. So he is using those Americans, and there's probably millions and millions of Americans that are wrapped up in BlackRock, possibly tens of millions. I do not know that aspect. I'm not going to pretend to. He's using their money to leverage companies to do things that are, at the end of the day, sort of a affront to the very Americans that are supplying him the money to use that money to leverage the company. You see that? It's a closed circuit there. That's called a closed loop. So that could be a reason. At the end of the day, I do not know what will happen. Now we come to the response aspect. I do not know what will happen with this. I am thinking they are going to take even more hits. You got to push back against stuff like this, because if you don't, especially with stuff coming from extreme elements in the left, I'm not talking your run-of-the-mill Democrat, middle of the country, I'm talking, metropolitan progressives with a lot of money behind them. Other people's money, I bet, but you get what I'm saying. You got to push back, because they will not stop. If you let this fall, it's a domino effect, basically. If you do not hold up the first domino, it will hit and hit and hit, and they will keep running with it because they can't help themselves. Look what the Democratic Party has done once they got into the White House and had both the upper and lower chamber of Congress. They just ran amok. Mind you, they didn't get anything done, really, but, they just went crazy, and now they're going to lose it all. If you don't stop people like this, they will keep going. They will keep pushing. So, I would love to sit here and call for a boycott, but I'm not going to, because that boycotting things is also a leftist strategy in warfare, cultural warfare. So I'm not going to tell you to, I believe you're all, in the know and mature enough and grown up enough and understanding enough to make your own decisions for yourselves. Personally, what am I doing? Okay, personally, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I will not be buying any Redman products, and I probably will not be buying any Pinkerton products, which is a number of, it's Longhorn, Timberwolf, Redman, any number of plugs, and a few other things. I will buy them for review when we get to that again at the 5-year mark. I'm not going to say I'm not going to review them, but for my own personal good, which is a shame because I actually had appreciation for Redman Original, lesser extent Gold Blend and Silver, and I really, really like the Select. But, there's only so much I can deal. Now, that said, I use chew basically for flavor type stuff. I don't rely it for nicotine. People that have exclusively used chew for nicotine forever, that use Redman, you're not going to be able to find another chew that replaces the nicotine that Redman has. But Redman Original anyway. All right? So, in that case, and keep in mind, this is important, and to be fair, the product in the bags is still the same product. It has not been changed at all. All right. For people that have always chewed Red Man, see, I do it for flavor options, and so the nicotine's not important to me. So I don't, every once in a while I'll get it, but I don't need Red Man. I can just basically go with anything. I can go with any number of Stoker's products. They have less nicotine though. For somebody that's relying on the nicotine out of chew, you can get close, maybe with like Levi Garrett or something like that, or something along those lines, but you're not going to be able to get the exact same levels of Red Man Original. So in that case, well, again, I throw the ball to you. It's in your court now. You do what you need to do. What you might want to do is buy up supplies that have, because it's not going to filter through in areas. Some areas it might filter through real quick, but the new packaging may not show up in some places for another month or two. In that situation, buy up the old bags now, and if you really want to start taking product out of the new bags and put it in the old. Sort of middle of the road, but I mean, I am not going to call. Here's the problem with also calling. Number one, it's a leftist tactic, but calling for a boycott. The other problem here is the market for loose leaf chew is so contracted at this point and small. A boycott could end up just losing the product altogether. And I don't know if I'm prepared to suggest anything that'll do that. All right? The product's still the same in the bag. The company needs to be let known that, we don't know what you're flying with, colors you're flying, but we're not on board. They need to be let known, but I'm not quite sure if I would want to do anything or suggest anything that would run them under. Because Swedish Match is a huge corporation that makes most of its money in snus overseas, okay? Chew takes a massive hit. They may not be like, oh, maybe we should change the packaging back. They may be like, oh, let's just get rid of it. Why not? So, that's my thoughts on it. For my own bit, beyond what I already said, that I won't be buying it anymore. And I have been over to the Red Man website. There is only one reference that I saw on the entire website to Red Man. It's been like scrubbed. It's like some Black Ops unit went in there on their servers and scrubbed the site. Even in their history story, they don't use it. I did see one picture of the emblem. I'm going to look into, now listen, if I don't bring this up again, then I looked into it and it was not doable. So don't pester me about this. I am actually thinking, and I only thought about this earlier today, so I haven't thought about it a lot. I am actually thinking of looking into what would be needed and what it would take to really, and this is really like a knife and it's not even a knife and twist. It's sort of like a knife and spin move. What would it take to have foil pouches made up with Ziplocs on them? I'm sure there's a production company somewhere that does that. In fact, I know there is. The only question in my mind is it not in China? That's the only question in my mind. But this, it is what it is. It's just, I mean, this is ridiculous. This even has surprised me a little bit. Okay? Like, the stuff that happens at Coca-Cola, the stuff that happens with Pepsi, and any other number of companies. Okay. They got big-time sales riding in metropolitan areas. Metropolitan areas are filled up to the brim with all sorts of progressive, leftist, anti-American lunacy. Okay. But the chewing tobacco bags? Seriously? Red Man, really? The chewing tobacco bags. Besides Larry Fink, who are you possibly signaling to with this? America's best? America's best. Listen, America's best lead from ahead, okay? Not direct from behind in sort of sketchy, under the table maneuvers that come out of nowhere, and instead of being explained for reasons, excuses are given as to what it wasn't. Okay? That stuff like that, that is not a show of America's best. Okay? At this point, I could have more of a claim to America's best, and I'm not saying I do, but at least I'm being frank about it, which would serve corporate America well. And with that, I am off. I do hope all of you are well. Do take care of yourselves, and as always, God bless.